through, this is where we practice our tools. This is where we explore technique, right? So some of this is going to look familiar, and then there's going to be more specificity to it, all right? So we're going to go back to fascial stretching. You've got 4 directions you can stretch fascia. And if you want to, you can take a palm in the back of the thigh. Now, if you imagine this chart, the fascia has been removed from it. So you're just seeing the muscular system. Now, those muscles have fascial wrappings both around them and within them. There's fascial wrappings that separate the larger groups of muscles, what we call septums. We're going to treat those today. And there's also a sheet of fascia on the top called the fascia lata, covered like a stocking, like a wetsuit. Okay. So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to feel like, what does that feel like? I can go medial, I can go lateral, I can go superior and inferior, and feel like, okay, when I go lateral, that feels tight. When I go superior, that feels tight. Okay. So those are directions I want to move with, but I'm going to show you how you would treat all 4 of those directions. All right. So if it's superior, if I want to work up, this is what we did last time, right? We flexed the knee, we pinned the tissue up, and then we stretched it. Okay, so they're just stretching the fascia. We're opening up that range of motion. We're getting that popliteal fossa opened up. All right, and this is a little bit about compression, but it's a lot about lift. So don't think about depth, think about directionality, all right?
Just moving the fascia.
Yep, so I'm pinning it up, and then I'm stretching, and then once you get done with the stretch, don't disconnect. Bring it back into a shortened position, stretch a little bit deeper, and come in. Now, fascia has a lot of tensile force, so don't sit here like this because your shoulder's going to just die, man. You got to sit really close up and use your lat, use your abdominal wall, and use your body weight to pin fascia, okay? Now, we can also pin the medial hamstrings off the lateral hamstrings. So to do that, I'm going to create lateral rotation, which is what the hip is doing. I know the foot's going in, but it's lateral rotation. I'm going to take my palm and pin the medial hamstrings down, and I'm going to move into medial rotation. So now I'm pinning the medial hamstrings off the lateral hamstrings, okay?
So as you're going, as you're rotating with the hand,
Yeah, so if you think about a cylinder that's moving this way,
okay.
Once I move it this way, everything wants to go, if we're looking at a clock, it wants to go clockwise, but I'm holding the medial hamstrings counterclockwise.
Okay.
So I'm not letting them move, so I'm asking everything to move off of it. That's why it feels like a stretch.
Okay.
I can do the same laterally. I can move them into medial rotation. I can pin this tissue lateral and then move them into lateral rotation, and that will stretch those tissues off. This feels pretty open for Ash. Okay. Finally, I can pin tissue down. Now this is for if you're trying to open up the hamstring. So think about it like this. This is opening the hamstrings as knee flexors. This is opening them as knee rotators. This is opening them as hip extensors. Okay. So now here's the thing. I really can't get into hip flexion and extension because they're on a table. But if you think about it, hip extension and flexion is the femur moving on the pelvis, right? So could I also move the pelvis on the femur? I could. So I could take this tissue, I can pin it. So you need to go really high up at the ischial tuberosity, pin it down, and have them go through pelvic tilts, posterior and anterior. And this will start to, especially when they go into an anterior tilt, it'll stretch the tissue. Okay? So this is a really good way to start opening up people that, if they have limited pelvic mobility, if they get a lot of ischial pain, lower back pain, this can really, really help open up a pattern, right? Okay? Y'all got to keep your heads out the gutter, man, all right? All right, now, so, hey, man, I know what's going on.
I'm having issues left.
No, we both.
Everyone's
Okay,
playing.
so,
Wait, Miley and Serena stretch us.
why y'all being so defensive? Y'all know what they say about that,
Because
right?
I actually wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
Now,
It's okay,
you got
Asher.
medial, and he eats it up, y'all. Medial,
I know,
lateral,
husband, he has a big booty
superior.
too.
You know what?
See?
Where
She
you
said.
started?
Right? So 4 directions, right? Warming the fascia, nice and superficial. It's more about direction than depth, okay? Once we get done with that, we're gonna move specific. We're gonna start with lateral hamstrings.
So wait, before you were doing, he was breathing deep, so because you were getting so close to his butt cheek, like you were pressing hard.
No, that's
So if
pelvic.
something,
The movement
if
was
something feels
the
intense,
pressing.
he might breathe more. But if he was pelvic tilting, it's gonna create movement in his back. That could have been what you saw.
Oh, okay,
But-
that's what I wanted to know. If we have to tell him to breathe deep or something. 'Cause-
It's a nice cue to use in general, especially if you notice if something is starting to get kind of intense. Like we want the work, Like, you want people to feel your work, guys. This is not like we talk about edge concept and we don't want to put people into pain, but depending on who you're working on, we were having a conversation about athletes earlier, dude. You have to use so much pressure on them because they're used to pushing their bodies. So you got to learn how to use your tools, man. You got to learn how to work deep. And if you get someone who needs a little bit lighter pressure, you apply it. You don't want to put people in pain, but people need to feel your work.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just be like, that's not what people are going to pay you for, man. All right, so we're going to get
Yes, my
specific.
CC, you can be paying.
I'm not involved in that conversation.